시청자 여러분 안녕하십니까? G20 정상회의가 의장국인 브라질에서 개최됩니다. 우리나라의 윤석열 대통령도 이 자리에 초청받았는데요. 자세한 소식 마르시아 도네르 아브레우 주한 브라질 대사와 함께 알아보겠습니다. Well, Ambassador, it's really great to see you and thank you for inviting us today.
It was a pleasure that I received your inquiry about the possibility of an interview, and I think it's a very propitious moment to have it, because we are just going to have the G20 summit meeting in Rio de Janeiro in quite a few weeks.
So we have a lot of topics to discuss from the G20 summit to the relationship between Korea and Brazil. So let's move on to the main discussion. Is that okay?
Very okay.
한국과 브라질의 역사적 관계 먼저 짚어보도록 하겠습니다. 특히 두 나라 간의 주요 사건, 교류를 짚어주시면 좋을 것 같습니다.
As people may not know, Brazil was the first country in Latin America to establish diplomatic relations with South Korea in 1959, which means that we are this year celebrating the 65th anniversary of our diplomatic relations. And during the 65 years, we have built a vibrant relationship with elements of trade, investment, cultural exchanges, community ties. We have a big, or the largest Korean community in Latin America lives in Brazil, in São Paulo mostly. We also have all the big brand names in Korean industry invested in Brazil, like Samsung, Hyundai, LG, CJ, all of them are there. There are more than 120 companies, but of the big 120 companies in Korea that are in Brazil, trade is very good. K-pop, K-drama, and even K-food are becoming very popular in Brazil. I would say K-pop and K-food among the younger generations, but K-drama across the several groups, age groups, if you want.
곧 G20 정상회의가 브라질에서 개최됩니다. 지금 인플레이션, 기후위기, 미국 대선 등 이 G20 국가들에게 산적한 과제, 다양한 또 문제들이 많습니다. 이런 상황 가운데 이번 정상회의 어떤 의제를 가지고 논의가 이어질까요?
Very good question. Yes, the G20 summit is taking place on the 18th and 19th of November. For all the countries, for the international community, has been traveling or going through a very difficult period. Very, very, very difficult indeed. Conflicts are mounting. I think climate change, of course, is an emergency right now, and it's right at our door. And I would say that the G20 has a lot to do with all that. The fact is that the G20 in Brazil has a focus, a very clear focus on three items. The first one is inequality, and by inequality, women fighting poverty and fighting hunger. This is an important and perhaps one of the biggest priorities of the G20 is that we are launching a global alliance against hunger and poverty. The second priority is sustainable development in all its three pillars. But I would agree with you, it's obviously environment, social and economic. But the main challenge will certainly be climate change and energy transition. And the third focus of the G20 in Brazil will be a reform of global governance. First one, the United Nations itself. The United Nations General Assembly should be made more influential, more as the real face of the UN. All the states are in the General Assembly. All of them have a voice there. Second reform, big reform, would be the international financial institutions, including, of course, the multilateral development banks and the International Monetary Fund. And the third important reform would be of the multilateral trading system. As we all know, the WTO is facing a considerable challenge for more than a decade now.
네, 최근 북한군이 우크라이나 전쟁에 참전했다 이런 소식도 들려오고 있습니다. 신냉전 시대가 도래했다 이런 이야기가 나오고 있는데요. 이런 상황에서 G20은 어떻게 대응해야 할까요?
I'll be very careful here because the G20 is not, in a sense, a political forum. And the G20 has a very diverse membership that is defined not by their political affiliations, but by their economic power or magnitude in the international arena. However, if you put together ministers of foreign relations or leaders of the G20, it's impossible to avoid some sort of political discussion. We have other conflicts. We have a very serious one, a very dramatic one going on in Palestine, and now also in Lebanon and Israel. We have huge conflict going on in Sudan, of which very few people speak about. But we cannot lose hope, because if we lose hope, it would be our destruction. So we have, and Brazil has clearly always been a very strong advocate for dialogue between different sides, for people getting together, for people talking to each other.
윤석열 대통령과 브라질 룰라 대통령의 만남도 예정돼 있습니다. 두 정상 어떤 주제로 대화를 나눌까요?
Brazil and Korea, as I said, have a very vibrant partnership in several domains. And those being, for instance, I would say, more cooperation, international cooperation, trilateral cooperation on food security for developing countries. I would say in Africa or in Southeast Asia. Or we also should talk about more cooperation in the field of sustainable energy and carbon-free energy, where, of course, Korea has this carbon-free nuclear small modular reactors that could be of interest to Brazil. We are Brazil, probably have the country with the biggest potential for green hydrogen. Korea is very much interested in producing green hydrogen as well. Also, hydrogen cars are interested. We don't have those in Brazil. But we do have a technology that would convert ethanol directly into hydrogen for use in the car. We can have cooperation on pharmaceuticals, and we have lots of projects with Korean companies like Samsung Bioepis or Celltrion. We could do more in this area. And also, nuclear energy is a possibility. I also mentioned the pharmaceuticals, the new generation things, the biosimilars, for instance. And so much so, I think the more we talk, the more we identify ideas for cooperation.
한국과 브라질은 앞으로 어떤 방향으로 관계를 발전시켜 나갈 수 있을까요?
I will give the financial answer. Bigger, better, and more efficient. No, I'm joking, but this is a good line. I think we have one single path for our relations. It will be more dense, more fruitful, more constructive. We have to see each other more. See, it's not obvious.
So, Ambassador, that is the end of the interview, and thank you so much for joining us today.
감사합니다.
네, 지금까지 마르시아 도네르 아브레우 주한 브라질 대사와 함께 G20 정상회의에 대해서 아주 자세한 소식 짚어봤습니다. 시청해주신 여러분 고맙습니다.
감사합니다.